Robert A.G. Monks is a lawyer, an investor, and a serial entrepreneur. He's also widely regarded as the world's most feared shareholder activist. A biography of Mr. Monks published in 1999 is titled A Traitor to His Class. Mr. Monks has devoted much of his life over the last several decades to an ongoing attempt to force publicly held corporations to focus more clearly on the interest of their owners, shareholders, than of their executives. In this quest, he has taken on the boards of Sears, Waste Management, Tyco, and ExxonMobil, along with the Business Roundtable. He has summarized what he's learned in those conflicts and in his time in government in Corpocracy, how CEOs and the Business Roundtable hijacked the world's greatest wealth machine and how to get it back. Mr. Monks is not a bomb-throwing radical. He has a simple prescription for how to repair much of the damage undermining our economy and threatening that of the rest of the world. What's required? Honesty and the will to obey and enforce existing laws.
In the particular category that I'm terribly interested in, which relates to the importance of trust in American society, and the legal notion of trust is quite simply stated. It is, you appoint me trustee for Paula. I cannot take any step in my own interest that is contrary to Paula's interest. I owe Paula an absolutely overpowering obligation, uniquely and solely to take care of her affairs when I accept that trust. Now, having said that, is being a trustee cost effective? It hasn't got anything to do with being cost effective. Well, what's happened is that throughout so many of the interstices of our social and political and economic system, trust is such a critical element. So the majority of shares of American companies are owned in trust for 100 million Americans. And yet, the notion of trust has been superseded by an economic notion. And there is a doctrine of law in economics, and there are courts who have said, in a sense, obey the law if it's cost effective.
That gets us into trouble.
Well, I think it has gotten us into trouble. I think that's one of the severe problems that we have, and my fantasy at the end of the book as to how you could actually do something about this has a hypothetical president of the United States. It could be this one if he'd like to do it. I read in the paper the other day that he's worried about CEO pay, but maybe he'll get to here in 15 months. But my scene at the end is of the president calling in the people who are responsible for supervising the trustees. So the head of the SEC, the Assistant Secretary of Labor, the head of the Federal Reserve.
SEC being the Securities and
Exchange Commission, and that's for mutual funds, and Assistant Secretary of Labor for pension funds, and the Federal Reserve for bank trusts. And they're all federal, they're all existing laws, you don't need new laws. And in my fantasy, the president says to them, look, the law of this country is that you're trustees, you own a controlling interest in the stock of these companies. If they aren't behaving well, it's your fault. And this administration believes that the informed involvement of owners is in the public good. And I have the Attorney General here just to remind you that this is going to be enforced as the law of the country.
So it's all there.
It's all there, and we have to take it back from where we've slid by having cost-effective economics dominate the very, very necessary soul of trust.